Alright fellas, Magdump Supreme back with another video. If you can tell by the title, today we're talking AR-15 versus AK-47. Now this is an AR-15, but this is not an AK-47. However, it will suffice to make all the points that I intend to make today. We'll start with the AK. We're just going to talk about what these rifles are, what these rifles were made for, and how well, if at all, they do those things. Start out with the AK. Designed, developed in the late 40s, early 50s, all the way to the late 50s. Early 60s and through the 70s is when it really had its heyday. Not going to go into the whole history of the thing, but the AKM was really the start of the show. Everything after the AKM was basically an AKM. Okay, that was the main design for every single AK after that. Stamped receiver, rotating bolt, long stroke gas piston, you get the deal. Now this here, AK-47, shoots a specific round. It is chambered for 7.62 by 39. Now in Russian military service, 7.62-39 used a 124 grain bullet traveling at an average muzzle velocity of around 2,330 feet per second. Now that's not exactly hot or anything. You can get much faster ammo than that. But that is the military standard, and that is what these weapons were designed for. With that combination of ammunition, doing those velocities, you'll achieve an energy foot-pounds of around 1,500 to 1,600 foot-pounds of energy, which is very, very good. That's very effective. Not exactly on par with something like a 308 Winchester or a 7.62 by 54 rimmed, but absolutely adequate for doing the job on the intended target. These rifles were made with an effective range of 300 meters in mind. Now that's an effective range. That means the average Russian conscript or whatever person that is handed this rifle with minimal training can shoot and hit the target reliably at that distance. And that distance is 300 meters. Does that mean that's as far as you can shoot this thing? No, absolutely not. Rob Ski from AK Operators Union can very consistently shoot 7.62 by 39 AKs well out to 500 meters and beyond. It's quite an amazing feat. I cannot do that, but Rob can. These rifles are extremely capable, far more capable than the average shooter. The inherent accuracy, I will tell you from my experience, is anywhere from 2.5 to 4 MOA. What that means is a 2.5 to 4 inch group at 100 yards. That is not stellar. Those are not good groups by any means. They are certainly outperformed by the AR-15, but for the role this rifle was designed, as an infantry combat rifle for close quarters fighting from 0 to 300 yards, this thing is excellent. An excellent rifle. Now, we will discuss the AR-15. Notice how I'm leaving all my opinions aside. My opinion is coming later in the video. We gotta make sure this stogie keeps rolling now. That's good stuff. So, the AR-15, long story short, development began as the AR-10 in the mid-50s. It was scaled down to 5.56 and adopted by the U.S. military in the early 1960s. It's seen quite a long history of variations, updates, and changes. This is certainly not how the rifle was originally adopted in its military configuration. Same thing for this AK that I demonstrated. That's not what AKMs looked like in 1959, and this is not what M16s looked like in 1970. The AR-15, I already said when it was fucking developed, it shoots the 5.56 by 45 millimeters bullet, cartridge I mean. This is a standard NATO loading, typically with a 55 grain or a 62 grain full metal jacket bullet traveling around 3,000 feet per second. The 55 grain travels a little bit faster. 62 grain is around 3,000. This will yield you foot-pounds in the range of 12 to 1,300, and that is also adequate, acceptable, very good for what this rifle was designed for, because it gives you a very high output of energy foot-pounds with a very low recoiling rifle. Any of you that have shot AR-15s will know these things recoil like a 22, and if you know what you're doing, you can hold them on target like a motherfucker. If any of you've ever shot anything with a 223, you also know that when shooting soft flesh targets, such as coyotes or groundhogs or skunks, it creates tremendous wounds. Very, very effective. These rifles were also designed with the same thing in mind. 0 to 300 meter combat. It's an intermediate infantry combat rifle. They have, there are rifles made for shooting farther. If you need to shoot farther than 300 to 500 meters, you will need a specialized weapon to do it. This is not particularly suited for that. It can be done. You can shoot a 5.56 to 1,000 yards, but it is not particularly suited for that. What it is made for is, like I said, infantry combat from 0 to 300 meters. Listen to Marines from the invasion of Afghanistan, the Battle of Fallujah. I've heard Marines talking about how effective their M16 A4s with iron sights or A2s with iron sights were. And, straight out of the mouth of a Marine sergeant that was invading Fallujah, the average Marine can engage targets with his M16 out to 300 yards. 200 yards from standing, 300 yards from a rested position. 500 is just unrealistic for most modern combat. If you're shooting at something at 500 yards, you're going to get a specialized weapon system, like a machine gun or a sniper rifle. That's not what these are. This is not an infantry automatic rifle. They're not suited for high rates of automatic fire for long periods of time, neither the AR or the AK. But there are variants of these weapons that are made for that. You can certainly configure an AR-15 to take a lot of full auto fire, and same thing with the AK-47. Reference the RPK. It is simply an AK, but bigger and heavier, thicker barrel, made for more automatic fire. Same thing with the AR-15. Swap out the direct impingement gas system for a short stroke piston gas system. Increase the heaviness of the barrel. When I say heaviness of the barrel, I mean the thickness of the walls of the barrel. So therefore it can take more heat before it explodes, or before it sees a serious degradation in accuracy due to the heat. Combine those features and your rifle will be suited for lots and lots and lots of fucking automatic fire. Reference for the AR-15, the M27 IAR rifle. Adopted by the Marines in recent years. It's essentially an AK47 short stroke piston with a heavy barrel designed for automatic rifle use. Now with those little intros out of the way, I'll get to my opinion on these two weapons. Now, of course, you know what channel you're on. This is Magdump Supreme 69 on YouTube. So you know I'm an AK guy. My favorite rifle on the planet, if I could only have one, it would be the AK. But unfortunately, my friends, it is not 2008 anymore. It's not even 2018 anymore. The prices for both the AK rifles and the ammunition that they shoot are now exorbitant. Okay, I'll just throw some numbers out there just so you have a general idea. In 2008, you could get an Arsenal rifle, an Arsenal 107 FR, for about $800, and it was considered overpriced then. These days, you would be hard-pressed to find an Arsenal 107 FR for less than $1,800. And that is an exorbitant and unreasonable price for the rifle you're paying for. You know, it's still an AK. You're going to be shooting 4-inch groups with 7.62 39. It's not a match rifle. You can shoot it in a match for sure, and you can do very well, but it is not, on paper, a match rifle. That being said, that is why I like the AR-15 so much. The AR-15 is generally, in most cases, most of the time, less than half of the price of an equivalent AK-47. If you wanted a high quality, well respected, well built AK, then you'd be looking for Arsenal from Bulgaria, a Saiga from Russia, Molat, Vepr. Um, any of these Russian or Bulgarian companies make very respectable AKs, but they're all banned from import. And in the case of Arsenal, the CEOs are too retarded to listen to their customers and make what they actually want. So they're extremely rare to find in the configurations that we want them. So they're extremely expensive. You know, supply and demand, basic economics. I'm not going to explain that shit to you, but there are fewer AKs, so now they're more expensive. AR-15s, on the other hand, are the exact polar opposite. There is a surplus of AR-15s in America. There's more AR-15s in America than Americans will ever shoot through. And that is a good thing, because it means I can get a professional grade, you know, fighting rifle, a rifle made to put your life, to bet your life on, for less than half of the price of this arsenal. Now, I got into AKs way late. I certainly overpaid for this arsenal, no doubt. I don't regret it at all. I have no qualms about that. I knew I was overpaying, but I was doing it because I wanted it. This AR-15 was indeed less than half the price for just the AR itself. We're not including any of the fancy accessories. The rifle itself was less than half the price and delivers almost double the performance. In terms of reliability, they are identical. If you take care of your weapon, your AK and your AR will run identically perfect. You know, my guns run flawlessly because I care for them. Now, in terms of accuracy, the AR-15 is going to shit on and dunk on and piss on the AK every fucking day of the week. I don't care what kind of AK you have. Unless it's a Galil and that doesn't count as an AK, you're gay. The AR-15, on average, with ball ammo, military ball ammo, you will produce anywhere from 2 to 3 MOA, which is 2 or 3 inch groups at 100 yards. Extremely acceptable. That's acceptable accuracy to get you to 400 meters on the intended target. The ammunition also travels at a much higher velocity, therefore it has a much flatter trajectory, drops less at long range. For instance, the AK with 7.6239 with 124 grain bullet doing 2350 FPS will drop on average about 30 inches at 300 yards. That's not unusable, but that is a fucking shit ton of bullet drop at 300 yards. You essentially have to do a top of the head hold to get center chest hits. Pretty extreme drop. And for reference, the AR-15 drops about 29 inches at 400 yards. So you're getting quite a bit more effective range. And when I say effective range, I mean as I explained it earlier. The average dude can just go out, aim center mass on the target, and get hits on the target to a longer distance. I think that's also called a point blank range, where you can just aim at the target and get hits. I could be wrong on that though. With all that being said, my actual opinion is that functionally there are little to no difference in the AK-47 and the AR-15. Every time that I've ever needed to use one of these weapons for something serious like hunting, both weapons have performed. They have killed the target dead in one shot, hit the target on the first time. They are both plenty accurate for all of my intentions, and anything that I need accuracy for that the AK cannot provide, the AR certainly can. And anything that I need to shoot with the AR-15 where it cannot provide in power, that's where the AK can. They do things differently, but they do the same things, if that makes any sense. You know, you can get specialty expanding extremely good effect ammunition for soft targets hunting applications. Very good soft point ammo exists for the AK. Very good soft point ammo exists for the AR-15. But simply due to the bullet configuration and the vast difference in weight, your AR-15 is typically not a big game rifle. I honestly would not even shoot a deer with an AR-15 if you're going for, heart and lung shots through and through on the side. It simply doesn't have the penetration behind it to get the job done. in what I would consider an ethical and effective manner. But the AK is no problem. AK is a deer killer like nothing else. The AR-15 I would trust with anything smaller than a deer. So humans, coyotes, skunks, wild dogs, cats, stuff like that. Little nuisance animals. People call it a coyote gun, a wildcat, or not a wildcat, but a big cat gun. I totally agree. It's high velocity, yields great damage on these small targets. But since it's very light and very fast, it dumps all its energy quickly initially in the target, so it doesn't penetrate. That's not to say that it won't, depending on your bullet configuration, your gun, your environmental settings, it very may well get a full penetration on the deer. Whatever, just depends on you. I don't know how this turned into a deer hunting video, but that's pretty much all I use these weapons for anyway, is hunting small game. With all that being said, hope my opinions didn't piss you guys off too much. I don't really have a favorite. They both do the same thing, fucking in different ways. This has been Magdump Supreme. This has been the AR-15 versus the AK-47. Thank you for watching.